Hey there, this is Jay from Joe and Jay Outspoken. We wanted to take a minute and express how honored both Joe and I are for you and everyone out there that watches, follows, comments, interacts, and enjoys hanging out with us on our episodes. Today's episode is a very special one for many reasons. First off, we're celebrating our 100th episode. It's hard to believe we've been at it this long already. We can't thank you enough for the continued love and support you've showed us along the way. Joe and I started this as a little hobby to catalog all of our random conversations through the years, usually when we were barbecuing or just hanging out. Years later, it's turned into a passion and a platform to share our desire to help and encourage our fellow man in an ever-changing world. With that said, our 100th episode will be from our Men's Edition series. We really feel passionate about the struggles guys deal with and the lack of empathy typically shown in regards by society. To top it off, we have invited our great friend Manny to share his story for the first time right here. Lastly, this is the longest episode we've ever done. We usually try to stay under 45 minutes. However, this was a subject that was very important to us and we didn't want to put a time cap or edit out anything, as it was all really important subject matter that we wanted to share with you on our 100th episode. So without further ado, here is episode 100, Joe and Jay Outspoken's Men's Edition, with our special guest, friend, and brother, Manny. Hey there, welcome back. You have found Joe and Jay Outspoken. If you notice, we've got special guest here today with us. Manny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Do I have to? I'm just kidding. Manny. My name is Manny. Nice to be with you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you.
Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it, man. It's good to see you. It's been years.
It's good to be had on a show.
Yeah, well, you might question that after you see the final edit.
That's true, I guess.
I'm just
nice
kidding.
knowing you either way.
Yeah. Yeah, so today we are continuing our Men's Edition episodes, and Manny has a great story to kind of go over, so we really want to get that started. Before we do that, please make sure you like, subscribe, share this content. It really helps us out, and you know the YouTube algorithm doesn't like a lot of the stuff we talk about, so there we are. Let's get this going. All right, welcome back. Here we go with Men's Edition and with our special guest, Manny, here. To give you guys a little bit of a background on who Manny is and how we have a connection here. We had a special connection back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch that one.
That's what he kept saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, clearly he couldn't keep his hands off.
And here we are today, still friends.
And here we are today, 2 children later. That's cool.
So we've been trying to, oh my gosh. So we've been trying to go back and figure out, it was in the early 2000s, right, Manny? Somewhere that
Yes.
we had met through music circles. We both were in bands and in the kind of industry and had mutual friends and such. And anyways, we met, and at the time he was in a relationship. So was I, you know, with females. Okay, get it straight out there.
Emphasize it.
Emphasize that, yeah. Girls, yeah.
I'm glad you guys said that, because I'm thinking like together, like in a relationship, or
well, and
I mean, I'm not judging, guys. Trust me. We're, this is America. Do what you want. I was just
and they didn't just identify as females. They were. So just take it to that next level.
Nice.
So yeah, later on, gosh, and I can't even remember, man, how many more years that was down the road after we met. Then we actually played in a band together, and we were already good friends. But I think as time went on, like we became the closest and friends out of everybody that we were in the bands with. And but we weren't initially, the first people that met in the bands. We already knew other folks.
Correct.
So, yeah, and it's just, you have people that come in your life that come and go, and then other people stay in. And Manny's more family to me than he is just a friend anymore. And we live many states apart. And
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
How you can have friends. So we didn't start off that way, but we became, like, the bond get stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
Even as far as we are and as much time as passes by. You know, there's a lot of cliches regarding that, but it's one thing to hear about it on Reels or something, and then another thing to actually have somebody that I've, like, for example, one thing I've always appreciated about our relationship, Jay, is that we've always been able to pick up right where we left off. Didn't matter the amount of time that went by. So even with us, because I think back to how we used to be busy, we'd interact, we'd get in each other's lives for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, and then life would happen. And then you'd be gone, I'd be gone for like months, maybe a year. And then a year later, somehow, some way, we interact again. We get all involved. I'm at your place. You're at my place. You're coming to parties at my house.
Right.
You know, we're creating parties at your house. And then all of a sudden, just poof, another year and a half goes by.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And there's no personal, like, why haven't you been calling me, man? I thought I was your friend. Or no, there's nothing personal. There's nothing there. It's just utter joy. Like, Jay, what's up, dude? Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long, man. How have you been? What's new? And I love that. I love that we can just see each other. You know, as far as speaking for me, I can see you and just be genuinely excited, genuinely happy. And I just can't, I want to catch up. I want to hear everything you've done, everything you've been through, where you at. Who's your friend?
Yeah.
Who's that other guy?
Who's your new friend here?
Oh, we're not friends. We're partners.
Partners.
Oh, hey.
We're not partners, but
No, we're partner.
But you know what? I think that's why we are the friends because Joe and I, the exact same thing happened. We met each other in 8th grade. I mean, it's been a long time ago that we met each other.
Awesome.
And then we went through high school together, and then we kind of lost contact, and then we saw each other again, and then we started working together for a little while, and then we moved and lost contact for a while. It's the same kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And
it's the same thing like you described right now, man. It's we've come in contact for, you know, some years, and then apart for even more years, and then kind of back together. And
exactly.
It's hard to find friendships like that where it's just you pick up where you left off and you keep going without a complaint or anything like that. Like, why haven't you called, or why haven't you have that understanding that, hey, you have a life, I have a life, we have things going on, and kind of life happens in between. So no, I could totally agree with you on those friendships, and they're genuine and they're good and they're hard to find, and you want to value those types of friendships. So no, we totally get what you're saying. Jay doesn't feel the same way. It's all right though. I never really liked him.
I have tolerated this fellow. Yeah,
we love him regardless.
Yeah.
Manny and I were, just a short time ago here, we're just talking about that, how there's certain people that you became friends with and you thought you were kind of good friends with, and then they get this weird, it's an awkward, like, jealousy kind of thing. And it's not if you're friends with other people, it's just like Manny said, and just like Joe said here, if you are out of pace with them for a little while, say 6 months goes by and just life gets away, things happen, say somebody passes in your life, or, just stuff happens, right? You just don't take the time, I guess, to reach out to that person or what have you. And now they're all pissed. Why haven't you called me? And it's just weird. It's kind of like that. What was it? Single white female? You mentioned the other movie.
There's a lot of resentment that happens for some reason.
Yeah. I just don't get it. And
it gets taken personal.
It does. Yeah. And I remember us talking about when you lived, I think it was 2 houses ago, technically, from where you're at now. Yeah. And that we were sitting there and we were talking about that exact thing. You're like, man, we haven't seen each other in like almost a year now. And it's like we never skipped a beat, And so that was the cool thing. So we have been trying to get this together for quite a while now, to get us all on the same page and be able to get Manny on the show here. Manny has a story that really reflects everything that goes on with the whole men's edition deal, and just the things that we go through as guys. And we're not trying to take anything away from the ladies, right? We're just saying a lot of times women are like, why are guys like this? Why don't they say anything? Why are they distant? Why do they get quiet and not talk and all this kind of stuff? And this is the stuff that Joe and I have been trying to really bring up. And I think Manny has an amazing testimony and story about what he's gone through in just the recent years here. And I think it's really important. It's, we had a good conversation privately about it, and he's agreed to come on here and kind of share some of his testimony. So
let me know if I miss anything, just because honestly, there is so much that has happened, and most guys carry a lot. We tend to carry a lot, so I can probably just overview the story, and I don't
Yeah.
know which ones probably which parts I may have missed out or left out or anything, because there's just a lot. There's a lot to unwrap there.
Well, I think anything you don't want to speak about, to me, because I love you, man, and the times that we hung out back in the day were always really great. And the first time that I saw a huge deep hole in you, and I know these kind of things have happened to me too, was when your brother passed, and that was really big. It hurt me to see that it was hurting you like it did. And I don't know if you agree with that, if that was kind of like the beginning of,
that shattered me wholeheartedly. And one of those things, again, that men carry around. I don't think I've ever really mourned him properly. So then I drag it out. So it's one of those things I've drug out for quite a while. I mean, now that I live here in this house, separate from, living my new life, I guess, so to speak.
Right. That's
I've
the next
actually
story.
got pictures of my brother all over the house, which oddly enough, thinking back to where I used to live, there weren't even any pictures of me in the house, and it wasn't until
Wow.
most recently, before I left, probably a year or two before things took a turn for the worst, or maybe a year before things took a turn to the worst. I think I probably voiced it for the first time, and a small little photographs appeared on the wall in the office in our bedroom. And I was like, well, that's sweet. Thanks for that. That's awesome.
It was like one of those pictures that when you were a kid, your parents said, okay, you can give these little cheap little pictures to your friends. Those ones.
Well, you know what? It was more, what it felt like? It felt like when you were
picture?
a kid and you give something to your mom and she puts it on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom. That's so sweet of you to put it on the refrigerator. Now that I've bugged you
Like an
about
honor.
it.
It's a badge of honor.
Yeah, it is, until, you're this age, and then you're kind of just bringing up an issue, and then that's what appears afterwards. So
Yeah,
anyhow,
because mom has thrown away all of those crayon drawings since then. So I'm so pissed at that.
She has.
I still resent my mom for that.
You know what? My mom, I'll give her credit. I give my mom a lot of credit for things in my life. And I've often actually always said it took a woman to make a man out of me. And that woman, that's why I tell you, I can tell you stories. That woman, she was only 4'9", but I tell you, she walked into a room and she was 9'4". That woman knew how to command a room. I have stories from a kid where, I could hear
Most moms do.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a very, very bad way, and I don't mean just neighborhoods and such. I mean, just even my mom, man, she just went through so much. I remember, and it's not cliche, this is serious me happening to my life. I remember sitting in a room, covering my ears in the corner of the room, hearing the wall shake, pictures falling off the wall, and I could hear my mom getting beat in the next room by her boyfriend. And I remember my mom used to make it a game. The next day, she'd have me in the restroom I'd be standing on the toilet, and she'd be at the sink, and she would let me color in the bruises with her skin tone color. She'd have like this thing that looked like a lipstick, looked like a lipstick thing. So I'd pull it out and I start, and she'd be like, oh, that's such a good job. Look, you can't even see it anymore, And she would just make it to where she was always present. She was always strong. And it was like catering to me, because I know, she just took a beating. She's got a black eye to prove it. And she still created this game to make it fun and make me feel safe, which I find astounding. And that was normal. Like, that was my normal childhood. There was so many things that happened in my childhood that if I explained them to you, you would think I didn't have a childhood. But to me, that was a childhood. I don't know what I missed. I thought that was normal for everybody. So even growing up, I started off rough, just always violence. My family has just always been violent or felt the violence,
Yeah.
And it's so, yeah, I have a tremendous amount of stories. So, but I think the one you were probably talking about was the more recent ones where, I had been married for many, many years. Things happen. People go their own way. You get to a point where it's just not working out. So the best thing to do is probably to go our own ways. I had already been sleeping in my own room for 2 years, and, things happen, stuff hit the fan. But even during those 2 years, I think I was explaining to Jay, I spent a lot of time alone. Like, people that I thought were my friends disappeared. People that I thought would be around for a while, gone. People that even in the religious realm, at that time, they just kind of disappeared, went away. And I just, when you're secluded for a long time like that, which I spent 2 years in seclusion, it's amazing how much you see and hear, and how much, and it's both good and bad, right? Because I had my bouts where I was, I had a beautiful backyard, I had nature, and I'm grateful for that. I had, beautiful backyard, just nature, fire pit, and I would do a lot of yard work out there. I would build it all together, create a fire, put a chair out there after a day's hard work. Sun's going down, it's getting dark. This big old massive fire with all the woods and leaves and everything in the middle of the yard, and I put a chair out there, kick my feet up, and then just drink. In some cases, drink and have a cigar.
Yeah.
And but of course, you fight a lot of demons at the same time. There's a lot of negative talk that you have to overcome, and there's a lot of adversity that God, if I could, I would kick anybody else's rear if I heard them talking to me the way I talk to myself. So there was a lot of times where I just thought, I think I got to the end of my rope several times. I was telling Jay, I got tired of tasting the barrel of my gun, which I did many times. Then of course the voice creeps in like, can't even do that right, you chicken, you scared, blah, blah, blah. What a failure. More was a failure, not so much the chicken, but it was more like failure. Can't do that. Can't even pull the trigger. Jeez, what one more thing you can't even do? Just another thing you fail at, And it's just a lot of mental talk and a lot of emotional struggle for sure. That feeling, that struggle, that hardship, and and even to the point to where there was a tree in the backyard, and it had it has the limb there that reminded me every day afterwards. But I even tried to hang myself from one of those limbs in one of those trees that I didn't cut down, and the limb broke. And of course, what's the first thing I thought of? I can't even do that right. What a failure, man! What a failure. So what I do, I go over to the fire pit and start a fire, and then I start drinking. And I wouldn't get blissed out drunk or anything. I literally, at least I've had that blessing where I drink, but I never to the point where I'm like blitzed out or passed out or drunk for that matter. I would just reflect. And then I finally just at that point started getting on the treadmill and punching bag again. And I started kind of making a comeback. And I did make a comeback. It took a little while, but during those 2 years, the latter part of those 2 years, man, I was punching, I was kicking, I was running, I was doing everything I could to just come back from that, just to stay active and to stay busy. No friends, no nothing. It started working at a bar for a while. Like it was a hotel bar. So I was enjoying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just interesting. It's been an interesting journey. But
how many years were you married, man, if you don't mind me asking?
Marriage wise, so the funny thing is I was with her for way longer than we were married. So
oh, okay. So how long was your relationship?
I'm going to say, gosh, it was 15, 16 years.
Okay. And in those 16 years, 2 of those were almost secluded?
Oh, they were for sure. We still, and that's the crazy thing. We were still talking. We were still friends. We were still in the same house. It wasn't hostile by any means. It was just, like I said, I think you get to the point to where you get, you just grow apart. I guess that's the only way I could, you have two mentalities where, and it's not an excuse by any means, but you have one person who's really working on themselves to better themselves, and you have the other that's just comfortable and living life. Yeah. And sometimes I think that hurts when you're not growing together. And
definitely.
in this case, it proved right, because it allowed me to unfortunately stay in a place where I felt like I was constantly working on personal development, constantly working on myself, constantly personal development. Jay will tell you it's been my thing for many, many, many years.
Yeah, we went to a seminar deal, remember, in Las Vegas. We took that trip up there. Yes, I remember,
absolutely.
For that company. Yeah, I still have pictures of us sitting in the audience of like, I don't know how many people were there. 20,000 really? People were. Yeah, I do, man. Yeah,
you have to show us to me at some point.
Yeah, it's on my refrigerator in a little magnet.
Of course, it's on the refrigerator, right under the crayon pictures that you do.
Yeah, exactly. That I grabbed out of the trash when my mom threw them away.
So, man, let me ask you this, because I in recent episodes of Men's Edition, I've shared some stuff along with a Walk with Jesus, another episodes that we talk about. I've had some traumas in my life, and even with my mom and things like that. In your time with your wife, did any of those traumas from your childhood traumas, with what you saw with and heard from with your mom being abused and the death of your brother, did any of those impact that relationship? Did you, in other words, did you have that in the back of your head that you weren't able to process things while you were in that relationship, or you didn't know how to manage them or handle them? How did that work for you? How was that impactful for you?
That's a great question. I don't think I had any of that in the back of my mind, at least not purposefully. I think I want to say that I probably had more of the programming of growing up in a very macho house with a very violent macho brother. Not that he was violent towards me, but just in life, he was
in nature. Yeah.
Yeah. He was, he If I could tell you, I mean, my brother, if you'd have met my brother, if you'd have known him, he's a fighter all his life. I mean, he was making boxing Sprite commercials at 14 or 16 years old.
Oh
My mom
wow.
put him in just to get his energy out, put him in karate, taekwondo, jujitsu, kung fu, like. So then you have this guy who's now mixing all the arts with a great solid boxing career behind him. You know, he could have been
Lethal.
he was actually going to be in the 83 Olympics, but my mom didn't let
Wow.
him. To this day, he's not forgotten it and hasn't let her live it down, because the guy that won it that year, I think his name was Paul Gonzalez. My brother knocked Paul out in the first round.
So he
And
probably could have gotten the gold.
oh, he would have easily, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so all that to say, and then my brother later on, you know, he ended up moving to Texas, where I was born, where we were born. He ended up finding my dad out there, and he ended up living with my dad for a while. And then, of course, you know, he went to school there, got mixed up with the wrong crowd, which was all his old friends. So it wasn't like the wrong crowd; it was the right crowd for him, but it was
For him.
all his old young, just like you guys, you know, from eighth
Yeah.
grade and all that. They were part of, I think they were part of a gang. I don't remember how it went, but he ended up becoming one of the gang members, teaching all the guys to fight, and somehow he just rose to the top and became one of the leaders of the gnarliest gangs out there in town. And he always took care of us. I mean, I just to say that if my mom ever had a problem, she could call my brother and it would go away from 1,000 miles away. It would just, the problem would disappear. I couldn't confirm or deny, but I just know problems always went away. My brother was always looking out for us.
Very
I'm telling you.
influential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's amazing like that, and he's still that guy. But if you met him, I shouldn't say he's still that guy. He's still that guy in the fact that he loves and protects. If you met him, I mean, his life is completely different. You wouldn't even recognize my brother if you met him now. You would never think this is the guy that Manny told us about. Like, I don't see it, you know. And
360.
that's always been him. I don't think my brother's never let into the look of any style of gang member. My brother's just always blended in. You saw my brother, and unless you started a picked a fight with him, my brother was very, very chill. And my brother did no talking. Like, my brother wasn't a talker. If you messed with him and you had to poke the bear pretty hard, my brother's the guy who would walk up to you and just handle something and then walk back and finish eating. That's just who he always was.
Yeah.
So he was always
So-
unfazed by stuff like that.
Let me ask you this, and if it, again, you don't have to answer it if it's too, if you think if you can't, if you think it's too personal, but those times where you felt that it was best if you just self-terminated, what was your thought in that process? Like, what led you to that point? What were the demons in your head that pushed you to that direction?
It was probably a lot of guilt, you know? There was a lot of guilt involved with that. It was of my own doing, but I mean, when you get to a certain point in life, what's it called when you're going through like a midlife crisis, so to speak? But
Yeah.
I'm just comparing it to that. Not that I had one, but I'm comparing
Right,
it to
right.
that in the sense of looking back, like, what am I doing with my life? Was miserable with my job anyway. You know, my marriage is down the toilet. You know, and it starts compounding one after another, after another, after
Yeah.
another, after another. I try to get up, shake it off. Nope. It's all about attitude. Today's the new day, but you know, and there I am fighting the good fight, fighting the bad fight, fighting the good fight, fighting the bad fight, and it's always just fighting, fighting, fighting. And no matter what, there's always a constant battle. There's always this constant battle, but there's always this guilt that just drips like water on rock. You know, it's a constant just drip, drip, drip. And I think at those
Yeah.
times, it got to the point to where I don't think my existence here makes a difference for any reason. Who would miss me? Nobody would miss me if I left. And at that point, it's a guilt of my full life, the full weight of full life. My kids, I was never the proper father that my kids wanted, even though I loved them and I was always there for them. And that first marriage just failed. And in all honesty, I don't even know how it went down with them, but there was this quote that said, if you love your children, the best thing you can do is love their mother. And I always talked highly, even after our separation, our divorce, I always spoke so highly of her and so great of her. And it's one of the things that I feel sometimes might have bit me in the butt, just because I don't think that was reciprocated. So me talking good about her and then her talking maybe bad about me, maybe it just worked out not in my favor this time, you know?
Yeah.
So I've never had the proper relationship with my children that I should have had. I tried hard as heck. I just could not find the manual to how to do it so young. As hard as I tried doing the right thing, it seemed to never be the right thing, or it wasn't enough. And so then I tried living for myself during that time, because I also had some issues with the way things went down with the first marriage, you know, like that
Yeah.
was, and that one I took worse because the kids were involved, and talk about
Of course,
harshness,
yeah.
brother. Like I remember with my first wife, when I found out certain things that had been happening, I had been helping her through school, and then, she met somebody there. And then I just remember being so upset. My kids accidentally said something while I was picking them up on a weekend, and they didn't know I didn't know, but I pretended to know. And that whole day it ate me, it ate away at me until I dropped them off. And
I know the feeling.
I cried all the way home, like we were separated at the time, thinking things were going to get back together. And then at that point, I remember crying all the way home. I remember I got home that evening. I lived in an apartment. I had a roommate at the time, but then I think she had left. She had already, we weren't together. She was literally a roommate. I think she had moved out with her boyfriend or something like that. And, I was there for a while, and I remember it was the loneliest period of my life. I remember sitting in my room. I looked around, wasn't much. I remember grabbing my shotgun, loading my shotgun, and thinking in my head, I'm going to take everybody out in their house, and then I'm going to go out by cop. I had it all planned out in my head, and I remember just crying and being pissed off. And then I remember I got up and went to a Starbucks first. After that, drank some coffee, and I remember the Starbucks barista looked at me and was like, I thought I was good, but she tilted her head and she was like, I'm so sorry. And that, of course, got my eyes all watery, and I'm like, thanks. I grabbed my drink and just went outside. And I remember the saddest, what the saddest feeling is? Not to say anything about Jay, because I believe, I don't think we knew each other then, but I was going to say, so I had my laptop and I had my cell phone. And I remember I opened up my laptop with my coffee there outside on those metal tables.
Yeah.
And I remember looking through my phone, and I was looking for somebody to call. And I remember must have been 300 phone numbers in that damn phone. And I scrolled and scrolled. And I remember at one point my laptop died. And then from scrolling, my cell phone died. And I remember thinking, what a sad existence that at this point in my life, I can't even find one person to call to help me right now. And so that kind of solidified it. I went back home, I grabbed my shotgun, and I was thinking, man, I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to do this. Wow. And this weird, surreal feeling of life's about to change. Life is going to change. So I'm looking around the room, and then just feeling everything just feels different. Taking deep breaths, knowing this is the last time I'll be here. This is the last time I'll be in this room. This is crazy. Awesome. Wow. And then I remember I sat down on my bed, and I laid down on my bed and put the gun in the center. And I remember just saying, suddenly I was just so tired. I remember thinking I was so tired. And then I started yawning. And then I started getting angry at God. I know what you're trying to do. I'm going to do this. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do this. And then I'd start yawning again. I'm like, all right, stop it. Stop it. I sat up in bed, just breathing. And then I remember thinking, you know what? I'll take a quick nap. I'm going to take a quick nap, set my alarm. So I said 2 hours. I'll be there 2, 3 in the morning, bang the door, get everybody while they're asleep, and then go out. Perfect. It'll be nighttime. And so I remember putting my shotgun right next to my bed, laying down real quick, taking a 2-hour nap. Well, 2 hours turned into the next morning because I woke up, light out, birds chirping. I sat up, took a breath, and I remember thinking, you got me. All right, you got me. Good job. And I was like, I want some Starbucks. And I remember I got up, went to Starbucks, and then just kept moving forward from that point on. I woke up with it was just interesting, that anger and that whatever you want to call it just disappeared when I sat up that morning. That jealousy, that bitterness, whatever, that rage that I had, it just disappeared that morning. And I remember thinking, it's going to be all right. I got this. And then I got up and went to Starbucks, got me a coffee, went to work. Everything was fine from that point on. I just moved on day by day.
It's interesting, Manny. I hear a couple of things that I've heard from other people who've experienced that kind of emotion, that kind of depth in feeling. Two things. One was the fact that they felt useless, like they've failed in their life. They've not done nothing right, or everything they put effort to has not turned out in the best way that they've wanted to, or no one needs them, or they have that thought that no one's going to miss them. Things like that is one factor that I hear a lot. And it's interesting because as men, we feel that we serve a purpose in this life, that we're here to serve a purpose, to lead our families, to protect them, to guide them, to have jobs, to maintain them, and live this structured life that was intended for us. Because that's what we learned, right, from the Bible. Adam's the provider, and Moses, everyone in the Bible have been men that's been leading the way, including Jesus. We have that mindset already that's who we are. And the moment that we fail, or that we feel that we failed, that we feel like we're useless, like there's no need for us to exist anymore. I hear that.
Yeah.
The second part is the sad truth. And you can even ask Jay, because Jay and I have been friends since the 8th grade. That's a long time, because we're right now we're in our mid-30s, very young still. That's a lie. Anyway, me and Jay have known each other since 8th grade. Jay's been there for the birth of all 3 of my children. He's been in my home. He's eaten in our home. We've drank together. We've partied together. He's been on milestones of my family, there for certain milestones of my family. He's part of the family, kind of like what you said. He's part of, your family. Me and Jay never confined each other personal things. We knew about things that happened to us, divorces and things like that, relationships, but we never confined to each other feelings until last year?
Yeah, probably within it's been less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And in fact, this morning we were talking about it over coffee, how there's a lot of things that we hadn't discussed over the years, right? I don't remember what the exact subject we were talking about this morning, but being very clear that, wow, we never talked about this. We never confided, because exactly like Manny was saying, we feel like it's all on us. It's our fault. We need to take the whole burden upon ourselves. There's nobody else out there to talk to, really. And sometimes we create that in ourselves. There is other people to talk to. We just, don't want
as men, we don't want to, because
that's right.
I'm the man. I got this. Right. Don't worry about it. I was telling Jay in one of the episodes, like, we're stressed. We could be, one of my favorite pastimes when I was younger, when I was freshly married, was hanging out in the garage. That was my safe space, right? We talked about that earlier with this mobile safe cave. But that was my safe space. I'd go out there, drink my beer, watch a little bit of TV, whatever, thinking of like, okay,
watch
I got these bills coming. What? Bro,
watch the Raiders.
Come on. It's Cowboys. Anyway, just thinking about bills and stuff like that. And then, you have your wife that comes in, it's like, hey, you know what? I quit my job, or this came up, or, Junior needs this. And then you're thinking, oh, I got it. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. But then she leaves, and in your mind, you're like, how am I going to get that damn bill paid? I have to figure something out. I got to sell something. I got to go do a side job. We're always keeping it to ourselves, because the last thing we want to do is worry our wives or our loved ones. And then they think we're a failure, right? Like, oh, they can't, I married a man who can't get it done. Because there's a lot of pressure in being a man. People don't know this. There's a humongous amount of pressure in being a man. And a lot of it, and I'll admit to you guys here, a lot of it is stuff that we put on ourselves, right?
Self-inflicted.
Because like you, Manny, if I'm in a crisis and I go through my phone, I don't think there's one, besides Jay now, but I don't think there'd be one person on that phone that I would like, oh, I could call. No, you know what? We're acquaintances. We're not really friends, and I could scroll through every number and never find one that I'm like, I'm just going to keep it to myself, because there's no one that I want to talk to about, because it's a personal thing. And as men, we don't make those kind of connections. Women, they wear their feelings on their shoulders, right? On their sleeves. They're able to get together. They cry over a movie, right? They cry over just the simplest of things. The baby walks for the first time. There's tears rolling down their eyes. And men, how do we celebrate? We grab a beer and we're like, yeah, right, brother. You know what I mean? Or we slap each other in the booty, and in a non-gay way. And but we do things so superficially as men. But as men, we do things so superficially, right? Like just on the outside. We never sit down and it's like, hey, man, how you doing today? How many times have we done that as men? Hey, how you doing today, Manny? What's going on? We don't. Let's be honest. We really don't. So these burdens we carry, and all we do is, like you, Manny, you had these burdens as a child. As an adolescent, you had more burdens. As a husband, you had more burdens. As a father, you had more burdens. And they just keep growing and growing and growing. But we never have an outlet. We never have an out. Women, they talk to other women about it, or whatever the case is. Men, we just hold on to it until we come to a breaking point. And that breaking point can come in different forms, right? Like non-exist anymore, go into a rage, start drinking, right? Excessively. There's so many outlets that we have that are all wrong, because we don't have those emotional bonds that women have. It's so difficult. I think the beauty of it all, though, Manny, is the fact that you've told us all these things that have happened to you. And then just the surface of it, I sense. And your story seems like you're in a better place now. It seems like you're still working on things, but you're in a better position to manage them. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. You're not wrong. I'm in a better place. I think it's one of those things where I'm constantly still programming my mind with positive things. I'm still very, very big on personal development. I still study a lot biblically. I'm a big studier when it comes to that. So I'm constantly always studying and or working or keeping busy. But mentally, though, I'm always trying to feed myself positivity. And what greater than the book and, actual positive stuff. So I've gotten back to some of my old habits that got me through the first time, which is, I've got some great mentors that I used to listen to all the time. They got me through a lot. Still top ones are still like Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar. Les Brown, Tony Robbins. A lot of that stuff got me through the first time. So I've kind of gotten back to that. And, as I've gotten older too, I mean, I think that's what happens to all of us. As we get older, we realize the same situations have different outcomes. So just like you in your
100%.
talking to Jay this morning about how we've never really spoken about those things, the fact that I feel like the fact that we are able to do that now is because we're much older and we understand things differently. We're much wiser when it comes to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to express things without having the childness or the foolishness of how stupid something might be, or how gay that might be, or how, just all the things that we used to say to each other, or people are going to think we're, what a punk ass, or what a this, what a that, what a crybaby, like, be a man, bro. Like, I think we still go through those that childlike struggle with the internal voices. Maybe we hear our dads, our brothers, our friends, our bullies, or whatever, that tend to say a lot of things to us, or programmed us a lot, and we're still saying them to ourselves. I'll still hear, like you said something right now when you were talking about going through your phone. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you don't want to burden other people with your problems. Like, I don't want to call Jay, instead of having a good time, like, I don't want to call him and then just like, guess what, brother? Like, I'm going through these problems, and like, and you fear like Jay's like, oh, here's this guy again. Like, why can't this guy ever call me and just have a good time? And it's always one thing after another. I just had a hard day too. Like, you don't hear me crying about it. But there's a lot of that internal dialogue that we've created that keeps us from doing what we need to do. It's interesting. So my girlfriend has allowed me to see a lot of different things with things that she says. She probably doesn't even know it. She said something small the other day that made an astounding epiphany, I guess, for me. It was just actually Thursday. We were going to go shopping somewhere. It was my brother's birthday. So I'd gotten in my truck. We were headed up there. And I'm like, I wanted to call him, but I thought it was too early. I know he works night shift. So I'm thinking all these things. Like, I'm thinking I'm being a friend to him, right? Like, I don't want to be rude. Guy's tired. Just got off this shift. He's probably asleep. And she had told me, like, why don't you call him right now? And I was like, I don't want to wake my brother. Like, he works night shift. He just got off. He's asleep. He's this. And she's like, so what? Wake him. That's what little brothers do. And I was like, interesting. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to call my brother. Like, why wouldn't I call my brother and wake him up and be like, butthole, happy birthday, like, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, why would I put him in a category where I have to treat him as if he was a stranger and I'm trying to be kind and not rude to a stranger when he's my brother? I should call him like he could call me at any time and just give me a hard time or just share or just, whatever. And for some reason, I just decided, it clicked in me anyway. It clicked in my mind, like, she's right. Why wouldn't I call him? He's my brother. So I called him, and bro, he was still at work. He was just about to get off, but he was grateful. He was so happy. He sounded happy that I called him. I was at the first call of the day, wishing him a happy birthday. And we talked for about 15 minutes. And then he, I said goodbye, and all that stuff in my head, as usual, never came to pass. I just thought that was powerful from something so simple.
Yeah,
it really is, because, again, I think as men, we overthink things. We overprocess them. And
absolutely,
before you know it, we're just stepping back and not following through on something that should be so simple.
Correct.
And because we really are, Jada. I would think we're very simplistic. Men are very simple men. Men, we're easy, but we ourselves tend to complicate our lives and our decisions and overthink them and overburden ourselves. And, it's just incredible how the human mind as in men works. We're just crazy.
That is key.
What do you
think
think,
what
Jay?
you said is key. It's absolutely us overthinking and causing something so simple to be so earthly complicated.
Yeah.
And
You're not
and
wrong.
you know what? It really is just the programming we've developed ourselves. We've put things together, and we've decided that this programming is what works, even though it doesn't work out. We have to then reprogram ourselves. But if you don't have that awareness or understanding about how to reprogram your mind about something, because you have really bad software programming right now. And I think because of my awareness to that myself, I'm constantly having to attack these viruses, so to speak, the software issue from different angles in order to just solidify like me moving forward day to day, making a decision. Don't look back.
Yeah.
Stay the course. Stay the course.
Yeah.
That's a good way. It's just like, man, to take a detour that's not necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll make
Nobody
Why are you
wants to
turning?
stop
Why
in
are
opposite
you
directions,
turning?
right?
Yeah. Why are you stopping here, honey? It's a quicker way. Trust me. 2 hours later.
Yeah, guys will make 20 right turns to not make a left turn. That's the way we are.
Jesus. Jesus.
I mean, if
Well,
no,
we're
you're
known
right.
for that
I think
stereotype in life, why wouldn't we do it mentally to ourselves? You know?
you're not wrong. I mean, we do. We overthink everything, and it's just horrible. And it's
Everything.
funny because we say that about women, right? Like, oh, you girls just overthink everything. In reality, it's just us that overthink everything. And and
We're
I
just as
think one of the
guilty.
things, and I was telling Jay in one of our episodes, man, I had and he could attest to this. My ex-wife, she's a great mother. She was a great woman, and it's just we overprocess things, and I think a lot of things that I carried from the past overwhelmed me and made me kind of ruin my own marriage. Like I feel like as men, we have these things that we carry and we jeopardize our own futures. And it's horrible because I think the best thing to do is talk about it. And I don't think we need to go to a shrink to talk about some of these things. We just need to come face to face with them and deal with them.
Yeah.
And like people say, like, the loss of a loved one, like when I lost my mom, is like people ask, how do you get over it? I'm like, you never get over it. It's always going to be there. You just learn to live with it. You learn to see the next day without that person in it. It's just, that's the way it is. And it's so difficult because we tend to we want to push that person in existence again, and they're not there, and you can't force them into existence. And because you're so focused on and I wouldn't even say focus. We're hyper focused on trying to bring someone to existence or to create something that's not there, that we forget about the true people that are in front of us, and that's kind of sad. That's men.
Well,
We're funny
Absolutely.
creatures.
you know what? Something that I've really thought about, there's this video out there, and I'll post it up here. The thing starts to break loose, right? And you can tell if it keeps going, it's gonna flip over. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video.
No.
And anyhow, this one guy, just one guy, he goes and jumps on the front of the cage thing and kind of pulls back to try to keep weight, on one side of it. And then you see
I've seen it.
Yes.
And then you see all these people rush to it and they jump on.
Yeah.
And I made a curious discovery on looking at that. Everybody that jumped on that fence was a guy. I watched it. I enlarged it. I zoomed it and everything. There was not a single female, girl, woman. And I don't expect them to, okay?
Interesting.
But the thing with that is that guys are born protectors. Now, some guys go off the rails, of course, and become jerks and, hurt other people and everything. But we have this innate thing inside of us, even the smallest amounts of, we would rather not burden others, right, where it may hurt them. So we don't even talk. We'd rather not even say anything, because we know once we do tell them, because I know you guys have had the same thing. A female in your life says, why won't you just talk to me and tell me how you feel? Whether you physically tell her this or you say in your mind, you don't want to know how I feel, because it will break you down if you know the way I totally internalize this. I'm protecting you by not saying anything to you. I want you to go along in your day and be happy and joyous and free. And I'm going to take on all this burden.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the times is the problem. One of the things I kind of wanted to bounce back on was, Manny was talking about all the stuff, and you had asked him, Joe, about the, whole thing of self-eradication. And I wanted to share a stat with you guys. The self-eradication rate amongst males in 2022 was approximately 4 times higher than the rate amongst females. Males make up 50% of the population, but nearly 80% of self-eradication.
Yep.
So it's something to be said about the stress and everything. And we talked about this on a previous episode, probably a year ago now. I mean, it's been a while, that actually women have more attempts than men do, but they don't follow through. Men, when they decide and they follow through, right? Yeah. A lot
Even
of
if
times
they fail.
Well, the thing is a lot of times women are doing it for attention, right? They make sure and tell other people and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times when it happens with a guy, doesn't say anything to anybody. He just does whatever he's going to do, and because he doesn't care about the attention. My thing is a little analogy I would say is we are now, because now we're talking about all this stuff and we're getting our feelings out there a little more and everything. And it's kind of like cargo shorts, right? Now you put on a pair of cargo shorts because they're comfortable, they're handy, you can put stuff in them and everything. But when we were younger, you might have said, dude, that's dorky to wear cargo shorts. We don't care. It's really gay. And we don't care anymore, right? Because we're at that age, it's like, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to wear what's comfortable. I'm going to do what makes me happy now at this point. We used to be so concerned about other people's opinion of us that we kept other people happy and all those kind of things. So it's really, our mindset has changed. We are forever. And I think this would be to Manny's point on what he's going through now at this stage, just like Joe and I are right now, is we are ever evolving. We're ever evolving in our,
Well, we have to.
absolutely. Yeah. In our mindset, in our physicality, you know, I mean, I started, not been quite a year yet, but I went on a kind of a diet fitness / journey to lose some weight, you know, and I did. And these are things that we have to look at ourselves, and nobody else is going to help you along your journey except for you, right? Now you can ask for help and opinions and guidance and things like that, but ultimately you have to put down that spoon of ice cream. You have to get in the gym. You have to seek out mental help. You have to seek out, who'd you say, Manny? Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and Russ Brown, and all these guys. These are you and I mean, man, we were on that trip for a while there, you know, reading books and going to self-help things and listening to audiobooks, CDs. I don't know what they are now. The MP3s.
Can I just add to the seriousness of what you were saying right now? Just in the sense that for me, I used to, not that I would make fun of it. That's the wrong word. I didn't take depression seriously.
You discounted it.
Yeah.
Men don't.
Yeah, I guess we don't, right? Until you're in it. And even then, it's kind of a stretch.
If you know you're in it. A lot of men don't.
Yeah, you're right. Because I didn't initially. But I did go through it pretty hard, and that's where I think I went through a lot of that. But I'll tell you what, getting out of bed was just taking a shower was a win. Like being able to get up and take a shower, like man, oh man, that was so tough to do. To be able to get out of bed when bed's all you need. All I wanted was just stay laying down and just don't get up. And no matter how hard I tried, sometimes I just couldn't. And then it was the guilt of, again, me talking to myself and guilting myself into being a lazy, no good, blah, 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 you know, and then I'd get up. And believe it or not, that's what got me up a lot of times. The guilt of feeling lazy, no good, do something, don't be just there. But I could hear my mom's
inner voice again,
my brother's voices. I could hear people's voices. What are they going to think of me? What if, you know, I'm being that guy. I don't want to be the stereotypical lazy mofo that's not just like, you know, not accomplishing anything. Here I am. And of course it goes to say again, my own internal voices of still thinking like I'm no, you know, I hate my job. I'm not anywhere I want to be. Look at all the things I've lost. Look at the failures. Look at the this, look at the that, all this, all that. And now I can't even get out of bed. Like, what good am I? You know, what purpose am I serving? You know what?
Yeah.
No vision, no goals, no purpose, no why? Like, why even be here? Like, why not just stay down forever? You know what I mean? At that point. And that was hard for me to overcome, getting up in the morning and just taking a shower. So then I started trying to program myself. I was trying to be my own cheerleader. I take a shower. I finish taking a shower. And I'm like, dude, I'm so proud of you. Look at you in the mirror. Look at you. You did it. You took a shower, bro. High five. You know, like you took a shower. Good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you took a shower. What are we going to do next? Well, that's future Manny's problem. Right now, finish getting ready. So get ready. You know what? Go downstairs, make some coffee. I got this. I'm going to go downstairs and make some coffee. You know, go outside, smell the fresh air, you know, listen to the chickens, cows in the distance, and just do that. Just get outside and do that. You know, and then before you know it, I start doing some yard work. And before you know it, I'm keeping busy and feeling better. Music, always, right? Music just pumps me up. Listen to some good tunes while I'm doing some yard work. You know, my headbuds in, big old headphones on, cutting the grass on the rider, like just trying to get things done over. And before you know it, I got this momentum. Okay, and I'm good today, man. I killed it today. I accomplished and I did good today. You know, I may not have done anything spectacular, but for me, that was amazing.
Right.
So, and I had to do little goals like that. And I started reprogramming and becoming my own mental hero, because those voices were just kicking my booty. You know what I mean? Like it was kicking me so hard, and I was struggling.
Baby steps.
Correct. You know, baby steps, you'd be surprised how important they are, because every long journey, right, starts with first step.
Right.
And so I started trying to give that a lot of consideration, and it really did get me through a lot of hard times.
Yeah, because I'm sure, so like that specific day, you finally get through that day, you're like, yes, I got up, I took a shower. Yeah, I made my coffee. I did the yard. I did this. Dang it. I got to go to bed again and I got to wake up tomorrow and I don't want to wake up and I don't want to do this all over again. And you got to start that cycle over again. Yeah. And what's that old saying? You'll probably remember who said this, Manny. It was the guy said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
I've always thought that's such a profound statement, and it's so simple and simplistic in its thought process. And you go, well, yeah, that's totally makes sense. Because when you think of the question, how do you eat an elephant? Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah,
man.
You look at the whole picture, right? Naturally, look at the size of that thing.
And that's what we look at. We look at life as this gigantic elephant sitting on our chest. We have no way to overcome it, and yet here we are. Here's the crazy thing: is that every issue, problem, horrific thing that you've went through in your life, if you're alive right now, you made it past all of them. We all did. We can get past the next one too. I think I said this on one of our men's episodes before. There was two guys that came back from, this was after the first Gulf War, right back in 92? 91, 92. Two guys come back from the Gulf War. Both of them had both of their legs taken from them with the IEDs, over there. Yeah. And they come back. One of them, he sat at his home in his wheelchair and kind of drank his life away and finally took his own life out of depression and everything. The other guy got fitted for these apparatuses and everything, and he started skiing, and he became one of the first downhill skiers for the Olympics, And wow. It's like,
it's perspective, man.
The exact same situation, but it was how they treated it. We all treat our own mental conquest in a different way, right? And obviously, probably...
some worse than others.
Right. And probably, and I don't know this for a fact because I don't know the whole story. Shame on me for even bringing it up and not knowing more about it. But the one guy that sat there and, started being depressed about it, maybe he didn't have family or friends or anybody to lean on, that he went down that rabbit hole and wasn't strong enough in his own will and everything. And the other guy, maybe he had this huge resource of friends and family and everything that were there for him a lot more. Who knows what the situation is? The key to it is that it's the same situation. And what I've learned through my journey is that every time I have this bad situation, and I'll give you one example here in a second of when I got divorced years ago, every time I'm in a situation, I think of all the folks that have been I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not unique. I'm not the only one that's ran through this razor wire. There's other people that have ran through it too. So when I was pretty young, I got married fairly young, I was in my mid-20s and late 20s, got separated and then basically divorced. And I remember when all that was going down, I was working where I lived. I was about 30-minute drive. I made that drive every single day. Same dang road, same dang palm trees. And I knew when the sprinklers came on, everywhere. I knew the road, like I knew to get to the left because there was a pothole in the right-hand side of the road. I knew everything about that drive.
Your road.
It was my road. I had to have my low profile tires on my car at the time, so I didn't want to bust the rim going through a pothole. When I finally signed the documents and we finalized the divorce, it's kind of like what Manny was saying. I don't want to say I went into a depression, but it didn't feel good to me. I went through counseling at church, and you were told that as the man, you're responsible for the union, right? For the marriage, not her, you are. And it messed with me. And I remember praying a lot about that and driving down that road this one morning, same morning, like any other morning, got up, got in the same car, we wore those same colors, Joe, and we were talking about that this morning. Every single day I prayed that morning, and I'm driving down that road and I'm like, wow, why does this sky look so pretty today? Have those palm trees always been there? Those are so cool. Look at those palm trees. They're really tall. And I started noticing the beauty around me that I had been so oblivious to, that was right there all the time because I was in this fog and funk that I had created myself, right?
Correct.
Of course, there were external forces that helped me to be in that funk, but I allowed myself to turn the outside world off and not appreciate the things that were there and kind of ditch good friends, which I didn't have a lot of them at that time or anything, but in family and stuff like that. And so I think now as we're aging and we get older and we have more experience with stuff like that, we know what to appreciate more and to turn off a lot of that self-deprecation. And the white noise of, why did it have to be white noise, Joe?
Because brown noise is very soothing. White noise is not.
We had brown We had brown noise all morning.
Oh,
Your brown noise. You know now. You know what's so.
It was all those $50 a pound eggs, man. That we had.
Oh God, baby Jesus.
can I?
So you
can
know
I
what
add-
it's.
I was going to say,
you know-
can I add one thing to what Jay said?
Oh, yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
want to say I tend to call those. You literally hit on it on something that's so real. I tend to call those real moments, but I don't know how to describe them. And you did such a great. You described it so beautifully, right? When you're in that moment where you're just noticing things almost for the first time.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
weird how trauma or something always causes those moments. And I call them real moments because it's the first time I think when you're so present in the moment with yourself that you tend to see things the way you've never seen them before.
Right.
And I've had so many of those moments and so many of those real moments, epiphanies, those things happen all the time. And they happened not only in the not only in the things that I've gone through, like relationally and emotionally, but I mean, it even reminds me of a time when I had just moved here to Tennessee. It's probably about a year and a half, and I'm riding my motorcycle and I'm riding around the roads. I'm almost home, and I see a deer jumps out into the middle of the road, right? And it's, I'm coming, a deer jumps out, and it stands there and it looks at me. And I'm going probably about 55, maybe less. It was just dark back roads as you could picture them, dark, black out. I mean, it's just me
No
and the
street
highway.
lights.
No street lights whatsoever, and ditches that are very unforgiving. So I'm going around this curve, and this deer jumps out, and it stares at me. In the moment, I knew I couldn't stop, but I downshifted and gunned it, and I went around it. And as I crossed over to the other side, it decided to turn around and jump the way it came, and I clocked it midair hard.
Oh,
I clocked it midair like hitting a baseball with a bat. I remember losing control of my steering as I'm at an angle going towards the ditch now, right? Because I try to go around it, clock it. I have the death wobble,
The death wobble. Yeah.
and I lean this way to try to get my bike to go back to the proper side of the road that I was on to steer away from the ditch. And I remember, I guess I leaned so hard and so abrasive that I pressed my back brake. I locked it, spun. I got bucked off the bike. And I remember, slow motion, for whatever reason it happens, right? Slow motion, I'm flying through the air.
Yeah.
And I remember looking down and I see sparks flying from my bike as it's sliding and, on the road. I remember thinking, no, not my bike,
Not worried about you. It's like,
No, I'm flying through the air. And literally, I remember these words. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, not my bike. And I must have hit like a basketball because I blacked out. I don't remember hitting the road, but I do remember running on all fours, like my hands on the road, standing up, and then coming to a stop, taking my helmet off, and I just dunked it like a football, And I was so pissed, and I was cutting out this deer in the middle of the road. And I was so pissed off, and I go back towards the deer, and I'm just angry, and I want to pull my gun out and just put it out of its misery. But it's like having this crazy shaking where it's like, I don't know what
seizuring or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
I'm
It's going through
thinking
the
deer
seizure.
jerky.
You and the guys who ended up taking it, bro. But yeah, so
It's
this
my
thing's having
brother
a
Daryl
seizure.
and my other brother Daryl.
That's so racist.
Or is it? Though? But
Not for Jay.
I can say it.
not for
Cheers.
Tennessee, honestly.
Yeah,
But-
that's true.
So I'm on the side of the road. I'm yelling at this deer. I'm so pissed off. And at one point, it stopped seizuring, and I'm still talking to it. And I have this moment that's where I hit this moment of real, right? I look down, and I'm like, great. I'm talking to a dead deer. What an idiot. And I look up, pitch black, right? Beautiful moon, like the silhouette of the country, barns, black silhouette
Nice.
amongst the background of a beautiful dark blue sky with a white moon. I remember thinking, wow, what a beautiful night to crash. What a beautiful night to hit a deer, man. Wow. Thank you, Father. Thank you.
All of a sudden, it wasn't that dark anymore, was it?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
So then, of course, first car drives up and they're calling, but those moments anyway. And somebody eventually, like the cops were there. That's why I brought up the whole, you and those other guys, because eventually these guys, two country guys, pull up next to the police.
Daryl and
Daryl.
Yep, you guys, and they're like, y'all want that? And the cop looks at me. He's like, and I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. Thank you. And he's like,
Roadkill.
no. He's like, y'all mind if we take it? And I'm like, go ahead, man. Have at it. And they get off really fast. Like before we change our mind, they get off really fast, throw it in the back of the truck, get in and roll. Like it was fast, like 15 seconds. Go, go,
Wow.
go, go, go. Dump it. Get back
That
in.
that is not their
They
first
don't want-
rodeo.
Well, no, they
Right?
don't want that meat to go bad. You know what I mean? Kind
Yeah.
of injured internal organ or something. And
Yeah.
it's gonna
Well,
go bad. You know.
Yeah,
You know what's funny that you mentioned the whole cloudiness and those moments of reality. We are such complex creatures that we have so much in our minds going. We're thinking of things 2, 3, 4 days in advance, like how we're going to handle that, what are we going to do with that, or we don't slow down and we don't see what's around us. What's so funny now? It explains a lot when you compare a woman and a man when they go shopping. We have so much in our mind. The last thing we need is to focus on what color socks we need, right? As men, we go into the store, we need socks, we go in the store, we grab the first package, we go and we buy it and we're out. That's it. Why? Because it's simple. We don't have to put thought into it. We don't have to do any of it. And it's those little moments like that we have that freedom where, like, I don't even have to think about this. I'm just grabbing what I need to grab and I'm leaving, right? Because we have so much other things going on, where a woman might not have that much stress or that much thought, that she goes in and has the time to pick whether it's cotton, whether it's elastic, whether it's colored, whether it has
Rayon.
stripes, Yeah, man, we just go, I need underwear. You know what? Large, that's good enough. Let's go. We don't look into these factors, because if it's a simple decision to make, we relieve ourselves of those burdens and just grab it, right? Because we have already too much in our minds to have to now focus on what color underwear we need, and if it's going to cup us beautifully and make our glutes look nice. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares? I just want to get this and I'm out, right? So that's how our human body works. So as men, it's just so weird. And both of you guys have a great point on that. Like, we are so in advanced in thinking and trying to problem solve things that we're trying to solve problems that we don't even know whether a problem yet. You know what I mean? And we're so hyper focused on these things that we don't live today. You know what I mean? We miss today. And that's something that me and Jay have talked about in the episodes, is as men, we need to slow down. We need to stop. We need to take a moment and just realize that there's so much beauty around us, that the things that it's on our heads, the concerns about bills and about some irrelevant things, they could wait another day. You know, we don't want to. We want to resolve everything right now. We want to fix it today, because tomorrow is another day. I'm full of more problems tomorrow. And that's how we think. That's the male mindset, is like, I have to deal with this today because tomorrow I got to deal with this one, and so forth. And we never take a break. We never stop and say, you know what? Today's my day. Today's God's day. I'm going to take today to just give thanks to the Lord and be thankful that I even just woke up today, right? And to have a moment to fix a problem, let alone solve the problems of the world. We don't do that. And I think as men, we have to slow the hell down. Give ourselves that moment, that break that no one else is going to give us unless we take it. And that's the problem. We think that, there's this old saying that my dad used to tell me, and it freaks me out now, because I'm like, what? And he'd say, you'll rest when you die. Today, stay busy. You're not tired. Get going. Keep going. And that's the mindset. And as fathers, we tell that to our children. Hey, nothing's wrong with you. Get up. Let's go. Come on. Keep it going. Like, if you fell and got hurt, my daughter, if she fell, I grab her like, oh, baby, oh, it's okay, and crying. My boys, hey, get up. Suck it up, boy. Let's go. Come on. Right. You're not crying. No crying. And we train our children to do that. Our own kids. We're processing and we're programming to be just as stressful and just as crazy as we are. Isn't that sad?
I think there's a fine balance there. Absolutely. It's super sad when we transfer our own issues and software to our kids. So they have now software 3.0, software 4.0, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse programming.
And worse.
Because you have old programming with the new system. You know what I mean? Like, and it just doesn't always work, and it's not always viable. In some cases, there's a lot of balance that needs to be had there. I think there's value in the delivery of how you deliver something like, come on, son, you got this. Get up, suck it up. Let's go. Yeah. As opposed to like, are you okay? Do you
correct?
The complete opposite to where that's gotten us. But there is a balance where ultimately adversity is what makes
you. At one point, you have to
us.
talk about it. At one point, when you tell your kid, get up, suck it up, you're gonna have to talk about, like, why am I sucking it up? Why can't I just take a moment to cry about this because it hurts? One more point, you're gonna have that conversation, because later on, we're not going to learn to cry. We're not going to learn to feel emotion, and we're just going to suck it up. And then our wives, our girlfriends say, "What? Do you not feel anything?" Well, yeah, I just don't show it. That's the problem.
We're killing people.
Yeah, we're training our kids to not show emotion. you know, and that's a horrible thing, because I'm going to tell you, human beings have is the ability to try to read each other, right? You try to go into a room, you try to read the room, you know, someone's angry, someone's upset or whatever, you could kind of tell. But with a man, it's so difficult. You ever go to a man and you look at him and like, hey, what's up, buddy? Blah, blah. And that's going to be the person who's probably the most depressed in that room. But they mask it behind laughter. They mask it behind drink. They mask it behind so many other things. There's layer upon layer upon layer of just masking their depression that you'll never know. Like, you'll never know someone's depressed because they mask it. Why? Because they don't want the world to see that. Yeah. You know, that's their private. It's like their own private torture. Because I deserve this. It's on me. No one else needs to see it. And we're so good at it. We've grown and developed ourselves to train ourselves so well. I can't tell. Now maybe I can, but back then when me and Jay saw each other, it was like when you mentioned it. Hey, brother, you pick up right where you left off. We don't talk about problems or I just got divorced or guess what happened here. Nothing. We just pick up where we left off. Hey, let's go have a beer. Come on over, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Because we're so good at masking our problems. That's why women don't know if we're stressed. Why? Because we mask it. Nah, babe, I got it. Don't worry about it. You go, you know what? I got it. We'll figure it out. You're in the garage like, how the hell am I going to do this? Yeah. Because we've become such good fakers. Let's be honest. Yeah. You know, and that's what we are. And we have to express ourselves a little bit better. Now, I'm not saying get in the corner and start crying. You know, there has to be a conversation like, hey, you know what? There's a lot going on right now. We have to figure this out. Or, you know, give me a moment, or let's try to figure something out. Let's not be so hasty on these things. Let's make better decisions. Let's not do that. I think as men, we have to start, if anything, helping each other, being able to be there for a friend. Hey, man, talk to me. If you got a problem, come to me, man. And I think that one of the biggest things and the biggest factor to that and breaking those barriers is I think we need to have and set and build a foundation on something, whether it's on God, whether it's on just theology, whether it's on a self-help. You have to build something to be able to have some kind of structure where someone could lean on you, you know, and vice versa. You got to lean on someone else. I think the first step is at least expressing ourselves where we're able to say, you know, Jay, today's not a good day. I'm just not having a good day, you know, and be able to talk about it and not say, man, bro, you know, that's so gay. Don't tell me you're not having a good day. You know what I mean? Because it's a stereotype. I mean, we're men. We're not like, you know, you get cut and you bump your leg. You're like, you're ready to break that table because it hurts your leg. You know what I mean? And I'm like, go elbow that, you know, take it down. We have to say like, damn, that hurt. You know what I mean? We have to slow down. I think we have to express ourselves a little bit better. And when I say a little bit better, that means express ourselves because we don't do it at all. Just talking to you when we first started, Manny, all that stuff you told me, I would have never guessed anything horrible happened to you. Never guessed. Because you're witty, you're cracking jokes, you know, you're saying all these things. Why? Because we are good at masking things, right?
Absolutely. I'm a pro.
And that's what we do. And that's unfortunate and it's sad. And now as parents, you look at your kids and you're like, damn it, I did the same thing to them, you know? And like you said, their problems today are worse than our problems then. They are the 2.0s and the 3.0s of the man issues, you know, and we have to break that cycle as parents. I think we have to break that cycle as men, and we have to start talking to each other and helping each other through these things. Because you know what, believe it or not, I could guarantee you your story is similar to my story, you know, and similar to some of the things that Jay went through. We all have these common factors, but we also have the common factor of not sharing, which is kind of lame. You know what I mean? I don't know. I really appreciate you sharing that because that, you know, like it was hard for me to share some of these things that I did with Jay. And that's Jay. That's my best friend. That's a guy I've known since 8th grade. It was hard for me to share with him. It almost takes your manhood away. You know what I mean? When you share.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You almost feel like you almost feel like your power is stripped away from you if you give it all out there, you know?
Yes.
And we got to get away from that. Yeah. Right? Give up the man card. But that's the thing is.
Or you open the door to a weakness of yours. It's like you open this door like, oh, there's that weakness. Now, you know, like because we're protective. We're men that protect ourselves and things like that. And then you open up this lid, crack this door open. We're like, oh, there's a feeling. There's a way I could hurt this man. And that we don't want that, you know, and
why
that's what we're scared of.
We tend to project that because any other time we've done it as kids, it's always been taken advantage of. At least for me. I can only speak for myself.
No, because we're kids, and you know, my Mexican family, my dad whooped my butt. man. He didn't play around. You know what I mean? And you know, my mom's from Texas, so she didn't play around either. It was either a 2x4, a broom, a pot, or whatever. She was closest thing to her.
Yep.
She was throwing discus at us. You know what I mean? And we were just dodging and stuff like that. But it's hard growing up in a Mexican family. But it's a joke now. But growing up, those things are traumatic to people. Like I remember my brothers running away from the house and not coming home till like midnight when my dad was home because they were scared of my mom. But my dad was the worst one. These things you grow up, and again, keep them inside. You don't tell these. Like I never even told my ex-wife some of these things until years into our marriage of the stuff that happened to me, you know? And that's a person that you're in love with, that you have your children with, that you're forming a family, and you don't even share these things. Why? Like you said, Manny, take your man card away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A woman doesn't want to wait. Oh, you think a woman wants to come home to a guy who's on the couch with a little blanket and some tissue crying because, you know, oh my God, Billy Bobby was talking about me at the water fountain. You know, like she doesn't want that. She's like, man, get out of here. Take your panties and go. You know what I mean?
You struck a note, because I think ultimately our biggest fear is that the way they see us changes, right? This whole time they fell in love with this manly, macho, funny, charming, witty, whatever. And then you share the weaknesses, and all of a sudden, maybe you're not as strong as she thought you were. You know, maybe the way she feels about you suddenly has changed. Yeah. And I think that's a big fear for all men.
Well,
no, it is.
But it's also,
we have to change the narrative. We have to change the narrative.
But it's also a little bit of a truth too. So our instincts are right. We do need to be the protectors of women, right? And the thing is I think this circle that we have right here of close guy friends, we need to be able to open up to one another more and share these stories, because exactly what just happened today, the stories that, you know, I know from you guys. Oh, so the stuff I went through, I didn't go through alone. These guys went through the same stuff or worse than me, right? And it's kind of like AA is a great example. I've told this before. I have a guy I know that he does like AA meetings. You know, he's been sober for many years. And one of the things that he tells these guys is like, he said, listen, I was at the bottom of the barrel. Like I was homeless. I had one shoe. I mean, it was that kind of thing. Right.
Wow.
And when I went to my first AA meeting, they told me, shut up, sit in the back and just listen. And he's sitting there self-deprecating, right? I'm at the worst. I'm the worst person in the world. I'm terrible. My kids, this and that. I have no money. I have no nothing. And then he starts hearing stories from who? The other people in AA. And guess what he starts to hear? Stories that are worse than his. He's like, wow, that guy's got it really bad. Oh my gosh, that guy, man, I'm glad I'm not him. The guy with one flip-flop, down on his luck now, homeless, and there's people with a worse story. So sometimes we need to hear that story from our buddies and friends and everything. And we need to, as this friend circle, as this group of guys, as we need to be confidential to one another, not gossip about it to other people. Oh, do you hear about Jay or Joe or Manny? They're weaklings in this whole thing, you know, and I can't believe they would do that. We need to be the ones that are strong and stand up for our buddies. And
who said that, Jay? Let's take it outside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we got him.
That's right.
But you know what? Like that saying, Jay, anything in excess is harmful, right?
Yeah.
So we have to find a balance between being a man that's a protector, that's the provider, that's everything that a man needs to be, but also that man that is able to communicate and talk about the things that are going on that are impacting him, or maybe making life a little bit more challenging than it needs to be. And talking to that friend, like talking to Manny or talking to you, see a different perspective. Like, hey, bro, why are you even worried about that? The thing's going to just work itself out. You need to focus on this or whatever, because other men have possibly, like you said, experienced it or have been through it or even worse. And have found a coping mechanism or a method to deal with it that's beyond our grasp, because we're, as men, overanalyze and overthink it, right? Other men had already gone through that. They've already gone through that journey. So why not share that experience with other men, with other friends, or maybe you just share perspective? Because, you know, man, and you know, this going through some of these traumas that we as individuals, all of us with any trauma in our past, are very narrow focused on that. We don't see outside of what is allowed or what we allow ourselves to see until there's a different perspective that comes in. And that could be a friend, that could be a love, whatever. They bring you a different perspective. You're like, oh my God. Now all of a sudden those blinders start opening up a little bit more. And it seems like you have more options, right? Like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Right. Why? Because we're so hyper focused. We're so like, I got to be careful, because if they find out my man card's gone and then I'm gay, you know what I mean? And we want to avoid those things. I think we have to find a very good balance. It seems like Manny's on the path of finding that balance. I think you and I have had our discussions where, you know, things in the past and even things that we think about, things happen in life that as a parent, for example, like, oh my God, what if something happens to my child? Am I prepared for that? What, I don't want nothing to happen to them, or to a loved one. We tend to start thinking about these things when in reality, we should think about today and focus on today and what changes and impacts we can make today that's going to make our life a little bit better for tomorrow. But we don't. We're 2-3 days ahead trying to figure things out that don't even exist yet. It's the male mind is so ridiculous. And I just think that
can I throw one thing
we
out
hit on
there?
some.
Like I was hearing you talk about talking to friends and talking to people and getting that learning to express and get that out there. And I think part of that balance also comes in having the right people to talk to.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There have been times that I remember so clearly, people that Jay and I know personally that I probably never shared with Jay, but there's times when I've confided in certain people because they were my best friend, they were really close to me and whatever. I hear them talking smack on somebody who's not there when we've been drinking and sharing intimate details possibly from that other person that he was probably meant to keep to himself. And it dawned on me at that point, wow, if he's talking smack about that guy to me,
That's supposed to be a good friend of his.
he's probably talking smack about me to that guy. And then I'm like, holy cow, the things that I confided in this guy with are now, it's like he's like the internet. Now it's out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all it takes is
there's no shutting it down.
Just add a few beers, some pot, and it's done. You know what I mean? Like it's over with. And I remember that left a huge impression on me because I was like, dude, even people that say, I love you, bro, aren't always the people that actually love you, bro. Like there's just a lot of so then you can't 100%. Share with anybody really. You know what I mean? Like you have to be careful who you share with. And then it's just easier not to share because had I just kept my mouth shut, I wouldn't be going through this issue now. And that makes it, I think, even more difficult because right now my difficulty lies in that now that I'm older, I'm really, dude, I'll tell you right now, I wish I had at least one person here nearby that I could call a drinking buddy or a friend. I really wish I had that one drinking buddy that we could hang out here, go to his house, go to a pub or something, just have a beer and then just, you know what I mean? Like for some reason, and it's been my experience, and this is not the rule by any means, but in my personal experience, for some reason, and I've not drank my whole life, believe it or not. It wasn't until my later years that I've started drinking. It's been my personal experience that for some reason, I tend to trust people that drink more often than people that don't drink. And for some reason, that's almost always been the case, that people that have beers and just drink occasionally I think that's why bars are so big. You know what I mean? Because you can meet a stranger, tell them all your woes, have a few drinks together, and it's like, all right, who's he going to tell? Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't even know the guy. Like, he doesn't know me. We don't know anybody mutual. But for some reason, people that have not drank for some reason in my life, my personal experience, people that don't drink have always been the ones that have always crossed me or double crossed me. Or,
that's interesting.
Just
wow, it
is. It's I don't know why that is. That again, not 100%, but man, pretty close. 95.
Yeah.
It just dumbfounds me. Even having worked in a bar, I've met some fantastic people that were just passing through. So many of those people that I'm like, damn, I wish they lived here. You know what I mean? Like we could get along so great. I wish they lived here. But so where do you live? And then they live like 2 states over. They're just trucking by. They're on their way through a vacation, whatever. Like there was always a reason they were just out there, never here. I think that's one thing that I truly missed, even through those 2 years that I was just completely secluded. I just, of course I was missing my brother Gino at that time, because I had my other brother, but of course I didn't want to burden him. He's out in Texas. Gino is the guy who lived in Southern Cali with me out there, not with me, but out there together. And he had a way of just showing up with a case of beer, not say anything unless I wanted to talk about it. He would just show up. And that's half the battle. He would and I remember Michelle sometimes would call him, and she'd be like, he needs you. His dad just passed away or whatever. And out of nowhere, he would I hear the motorcycle rolling up and somehow he'd have his girlfriend and a case of beer in the back, and he'd roll up at the door. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, what are you doing here, man? He's like, I'm just here, brother. I'm just here. Here. He would just talk. We would just talk. And he would just, I really, really, truly miss that. I miss having somebody that'll just show up that you can physically touch and be like, hey, bro, good to see you, man.
Yeah, I felt like that when I moved to Michigan, man. I had nobody out there. I was all alone. All my family was over here. Jay was over here, and
yeah.
I understand the feeling, man. It could be very lonely sometimes.
Then
and when you're dealing
on
with
a motorcycle, right? You're a motorcycle rider with no crew. You just learn to love.
You're solo.
You're a lone wolf on that road, man.
Lone wolf.
And I've just learned to just enjoy and make the best out of being a lone wolf, even on the road. Just seeing all, and you see the other bikers, whether they're bikers, or whether they're just a group of guys having fun on a Sunday or whatever. I see these riders, and I'm like, damn, that must be nice. That's fun. I miss that. I miss rolling with those guys. And then there I go, off green light, keep going.
Right.
You're that easy rider. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Pretty much. If they only knew Easy Rider only in name, because it's complicated.
Yeah.
Aren't we all though?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you, there's a couple guys that, when people pass away that are actors or musicians or people that you kind of look up to or followed throughout your life, it kind of hits you a little bit. Two guys that really impacted me on their loss, not because so much I cared about them or followed them in any specific way, but just how everything happened and what they represented to the male community. And that was Anthony Bourdain and Robin Williams. So Robin Williams, exactly what you were saying a little bit ago, Joe, he masked all of his trauma and his depression and everything else with comedy. Exactly what you said. Everybody that would talk about him when he was alive, you got to get those stories, because when people pass, it's like, oh, they were the greatest person on the planet. Everybody talks, even if you were the jerk of the world, everybody's going to say you're the greatest.
Correct.
Yeah.
But these people said such great things about him when he was alive that, man, he could come in a room and spark it on fire, right? And just light it up. And then I thought about Anthony Bourdain. I mean, I don't like to eat much, but yeah. Anthony Bourdain. That was a delayed reaction from you, man. Jesus.
I was processing it. It was cooking.
Are you serious? Cooking, literally, yeah. So Anthony Bourdain was paid to travel all over the world, beautiful countries and everything, paid to eat food from all over the world. A couple of those, I saw a couple episodes. I was like, I don't think I'd want to eat that. Most of the places, awesome people, get to meet new cultures, travel the world, get paid for it. And he was heavily depressed. We never know. This man that, in my eyes, lived a dream life for me, right? To travel and eat and meet a bunch of people, and he had his demons, and that's something we have to realize. And I think is 100%. You guys shared so much of that we mask so much of it, and people that you interact with on a daily basis can be fighting the worst demons and dealing with things that are way beyond our comprehension to what we see from their outside shell. Just like Joe, you said a few minutes ago about Manny, hey, I'm talking to you and I would have never known, this story was in your background, because you're just such a Manny and I have known each other for a long time. And I've always felt that way. We'd meet up and, hey, brother, and have a good time. And, the guitar would get broke out there and we'd start singing. And I remember we had a deal that we were we'd start like the name of a song or something like that. And we'd bring up like whatever band it was from the 80s or something like that. We were doing like trivia night. We tried to stump each other with stuff. It was awesome.
I remember that. And those were good times. Yeah.
I want to read something that Robin Williams said, and this is very true. I think
nanu.
Nanu, and no, it's not quite that, but it is close. But then I think it is very true. And this is what he said. I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy, because they know what it feels like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone else to feel like that.
Wow.
Amen.
That is the hardest truth that anyone could say.
Wow.
It is.
And again, that's why we say that people like that who are always the center of attention, making jokes, are sometimes the people who are suffering the most.
Yep.
So really, I hope when people see this episode that they try to share with each other and with their friends, especially the males, and even the women who watch these podcasts. I hope they understand kind of some of the things that men are going through without saying it, and I don't think men want empathy from anybody. I think men are just trying to figure out their own way and how to handle with some of the things that life throws at them, because we were never taught how to, right? This is something that as the ages continue, we trying to develop, trying to learn, trying to educate ourselves in. It's an ongoing process. And I feel that because of how society is today, it is going to be an ongoing process. And I think it's going to be, and it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. With that being said, Manny, I want to thank you for sharing everything you shared with us today. And I hope that in some way this conversation helps others in their journey. And I hope it helped you in some way to talk a little bit about it, and knowing that it might help someone else out there that's listening. So for that, thank you very much for being on here today. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys just for being able to talk and share your own stories as well, and how we pretty much aren't alone in being alone.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's pretty profound too.
Yeah.
We are not
that's true.
alone in being alone. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True story.
Well, I tell you, this is by far our longest podcast that we've had, and I am so happy that we did it and we had the time and we made time for it. I have a feeling this won't be the last time we have Manny on the show. So
No, absolutely not.
Oh, well, thank
Yeah.
you. I honestly hope that I can bring something to the show.
Yeah.
You guys are
Yeah, well-
you guys are doing a great thing here. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you shedding light on a subject that is, I won't say taboo, but nearly there. Nearly something
It
that
is.
nobody
It kind
talks
of is.
about. Yeah, I guess you're
Yeah.
right. To an extent, it actually
It really is taboo. Yeah.
At least
we
it's
don't
not
talk about
left
it.
light on
So
it for sure. And I think this is
Yeah.
a great thing to be able to at least put it out there that it's an issue, there's a problem, and that people maybe will be aware that there is more of an awareness now to it, and that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay
Yeah,
to seek
absolutely.
help or find some kind of something. Figure out what
Yep.
it is for you that is going to help you get past this moment till tomorrow, and then do it again.
yeah.
Well, I hope you continue sharing, Manny. I appreciate it. I hope next time you share maybe some of that deer that you killed and bring it to us so we could have some deer jerky. But
Yeah.
you can mail it, bro. We'll get it processed quick.
Yeah.
I'll find those guys that took my deer.
Yeah. Daryl and Daryl. Boy.
That's
You
right.
find Daryl and Daryl. You tell them I got a pouch of chew for them.
Tell them we need
Yes,
some
sir.
venison loin, some of that back
Right.
loin. But yeah, again,
Oh, my God.
we'll get Manny back on here again. If this episode helps one person, seriously, one person, it was more than worth it.
Well worth it.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
this
I appreciate
Joan-
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Manny. Appreciate you being here, man. Really helped. I think it helped a lot of people. It helped me, so thank you for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
don't
bro.
for you out there. Thanks for joining us, and remember you can check us out at all of our social media channels at linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and share this content because it really makes a huge difference and fights the YouTube overlord God algorithm that doesn't like us. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.
Have a good one.